With Jon Moxley being a free agent before re-signing with AEW and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for October 8th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. On Shaq Wrestling, Finn Balor spoke about the criticism of WWE being overproduced, as he said, yeah, and I also feel like maybe in the past we've been guilty of overproducing things and it doesn't feel as natural. For me, if I look back and watch like an old WCW episode and there's like a backstage scene or a promo or a beatdown, you'll see people walking, like leaving the building that have already finished a match or entering the building that haven't performed yet. That was natural. I feel like that element needs to be really emphasized in wrestling. This is live TV. It shouldn't really be as produced as perhaps it was in the past. I feel like maybe the rougher, edgier it is, the more authentic it will be. Talking about being days away from being the first black woman to hold a WWE title for more than 200 days, Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair told BT Sport, "Oh wow, okay, even more pressure. I need to hit that milestone. We have to make that happen." I always say we because I feel like I'm on this journey alone because my fans are with me. We got to make this happen. That's a huge milestone. I want to keep breaking those barriers and be that person that shows this is possible. Let's keep riding with this. So even more pressure. Let's make it happen because you know what? I'm going against Bayley, who is the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. I don't like that because she has something that ends in EST, and everything that ends in EST belongs to me. So that's my goal, to be the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion. That starts with getting past 200 days. That's crazy. Speaking about his initial experiences in the wrestling business, Scotty to Hotty told the Wrestling with Honors podcast that he was an enhancement talent for WWE while still in high school. After I had my first match, I had 2 matches locally just outside of Portland, Maine, where I grew up. Then I met a guy, Robbie Ellis. He was kind of a local legend around Maine. He was on the first couple shows I did, and then he got me and my friend, who I started with in my mom's garage, booked for this small independent company down in Massachusetts. We would go down just south of Boston pretty much every weekend and work at least one show, sometimes 5 or 6. He might do some fair shows where they do 2 or 3 shows a day. At the time I was a kid. I was younger than my son is now. When I was doing this, I was 16, 17 years old, and at the time we were making, if we were lucky, $10 a day down there. It's like, this sucks, we're not making any money, but looking back, it was such a great experience and great reps being able to do it over and over and over and fine-tune our craft. We were really lucky to have that. I worked for him for years, and then I met a guy named Phil Apollo. He had been working as an extra for WWF, and I didn't even give him my number. I told him I worked at a KFC. I was working at a KFC as a cook, so maybe a month or 2 went by after meeting him, and I was at work and I got a phone call. It was Phil Apollo. He said, "I've been trying to track you down. I've been calling all the KFCs around Portland, and I've been working as an extra for WWF, and they've asked me to bring another guy. Would you be interested?" I said, of course, that's my goal. I was about 17, like I said, when I got that call. It was August 19th of 1991. I had my first match. I was an enhancement guy. I was still in high school, just barely an adult. I would skip school to go get beat up by the best in the world. At the time, you're thinking, am I doing the right thing? I'm just a body out here getting beat up. And you have people who have been around for a while telling you, oh, you can't do that. You're going to kill yourself off. Looking back, dude, I was sitting in school one day, and the next day, I'm in the ring with Hogan and Undertaker and Sid and Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart. How can that be wrong? I'm in the ring with Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels and the Beverly Brothers and the Berserker and Owen Hart. Like, dude, at 18, 19, 20 years old, what great experience. It kind of sucks now because the guys don't really get that opportunity to do that and get out there because they don't really use enhancement guys the way that they used to. Recalling his Players Tribune article detailing his struggles prior to signing with AEW, Eddie Kingston said on the Blindsided podcast, "Now I know nothing's wrong with me. It just is what it is. It's just who I am. Back then, no. I hated myself. I hated that I was Irish and Puerto Rican. I hated that I was a fighter. I hated people around me because I hated myself so much that it just projected out. Also thinking that I was never good enough for anything was always a big thing. I'm never going to be cured. This is who I am. And I love that I know that now. And I love that I'm learning how to get better at loving myself. But it's an everyday struggle because I don't like attention and I'm in the pro wrestling business out of all things." On his podcast, Chris Jericho spoke about his recent match against Bandido from AEW Dynamite, with him saying that I love that match with Bandido. It was just as exciting as my first match against Lance Storm was 32 years ago. I had never seen any of his work. I knew that he was kind of hot on the scene and was a guy that had a kind of critical acclaim. I just wrote down some ideas. My goal was to put this guy over and get this kid a contract, as Booker T used to say, but more importantly, make him look like a main event star. When asked about her match against Ronda Rousey from May, Raquel Rodriguez told NBC Sports Boston, "It was one of the most nerve-wracking days I would say I've had in a very, very long time. From the beginning of the day when I woke up until the end of the night, I was just on pins and needles, just excited. I was looking across the ring, telling Ronda Rousey, my name is Raquel Rodriguez. I was like, holy caca, this is the baddest woman on the planet, and I'm about to go toe-to-toe with her. I could not have been prouder. I could not have been happier with everything that I gave in that match." Talking about being selected for the Next in Line program in WWE, track and field star from Arkansas, Ruben Banks told Wrestling Inc., "I noticed they selected him and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never really thought about going from track to wrestling. I was like, but it kind of makes sense with the size and the power and the athleticism trying to carry that over. I might just send in that recruiting for him." I was like, if they don't, nothing wrong with that. Let's just see what happens. And then I got a call from one of the agents there, and he talked me through the process of what it was all about. So the whole goal in mind is, once I've graduated from college and I have that degree in hand, I'll move over to Orlando, Florida and start my training. Speaking on his podcast about Vince McMahon being annoyed over the food he was ordering, Bruce Pritchard revealed, "Vince was thoroughly disgusted when I ordered a corn dog. I explained to him what a corn dog was. He was like, you're going to eat that? We also had hamburgers and other things, Pat and I did, and Vince had egg whites. So we were going to leave and Vince realized and said, did you get your corn dog? And I said, no, I forgot, because she didn't give me a corn dog with the rest of my food. So I went back and said, excuse me, ma'am, but I didn't get my corn dog. And she said, it ain't done draining yet. Vince says, you're going to eat something that has to drain? In which time I realized, oh God, you're right, ma'am, no, don't drain it. My God, that's the best part. Talking about the backstage confrontation that took place during AEW Dynamite between Sammy Guevara and Andrade, Jim Cornette said on his podcast, you work with this guy. You're going to see him every week at TV. It's one of the boys in the locker room and you choose, instead of calling the guy up on the phone, if you're that incensed about what he said on an interview, which basically was that Sammy was the only guy that ever complained about him being too stiff, whatever, that's not the most inflammatory verbiage I've ever heard uttered towards somebody else. So Sammy, instead of calling the guy on the phone or instead of going up to him on Wednesday night, he wants to make a production out of it. He wants to tell the whole world, and in the process, he wants to call more attention to the fact that everybody in that locker room hates each other and they all act like they're 12. Former head writer for WWE, Brian Gewirtz, recently appeared on Busted Open where he teased a potential comeback, saying, it's like working a muscle, a little bit. Your promo muscle as a writer in terms of getting into the swing of things again, because I've had occasionally some talent at WWE give me a call and say, hey, what's a good line I can say to this person? Not often, but every now and then. And then I start thinking about it, and then that muscle starts, working again. And then all of a sudden, I've written like a 10-minute promo and I'm sending it to the person. In fact, I'm going to Raw in Brooklyn on Monday because I'm going to be back in New York because of the Black Adam premiere. When I show up to WWE nowadays, the first response from everybody is, oh my God, is The Rock here? It never truly leaves my psyche or goes away. I don't ever really envision myself in that position as a job again, but as they say in the wrestling business, you never say never. Talking about a return that is seemingly set to take place, Fightful reported that Sarah Logan is coming back, as they said. As highlighted on tonight's SmackDown, another name is set to return to WWE. Sarah Logan was featured in a segment tonight, though her face wasn't shown. The Valhalla awaits segments are being used to reintroduce her after an over 2-year absence. She was released in 2020 amid tons of budget cuts and has maintained a positive relationship with WWE. She appeared in the 2022 Royal Rumble and a Viking Raiders vignette. Outside of that, she's only wrestled once since her release, which was for Control Your Narrative. She's set to be put with Viking Raiders. We haven't heard of the extent of plans for her actively competing. There have been numerous pitches from various people over the last couple of years to involve her in the Viking Raiders team. Apparently, prior to re-signing with AEW, Jon Moxley was a free agent this year, as it was reported that several sources indicated that Jon Moxley had been working at some point without a contract, but Fightful has not confirmed that. However, when we repeatedly asked about his contract status throughout the summer, we were told it was quite a situation. And we're also told that AEW would do whatever it took to keep him with the company for the rest of his career. It goes without saying that AEW has worked to make a big investment in Moxley. With the many White Rabbit teases during WWE shows, fans are thinking we will see Bray Wyatt make his return to the company. Speaking about this on Smack Talk, Dutch Mantel noted that Bray Wyatt didn't get over last time. You know why he didn't get over? He wasn't over that much. He was like a babyface. They wanted him to be a heel, but he was really a babyface. And he didn't really get over as a heel because he didn't really do anything evil to get a pin. He just beat them with his hold, boom. So they're not going to boo that. When it comes to more signs of his return, WrestleVotes reported that, for what it's worth, a buddy of mine just noticed this theme was back on Spotify today after being removed following Bray's release last year. No clue what the cover art might mean, just more fuel to the fire. Of course, there was also someone in a White Rabbit costume that appeared during SmackDown. Here's some of the videos fans took. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.